You may think that vegetable gardening ends with the first frost, but that doesn't have to be the case, as we'll learn here today on Across the Fence. Hi, I'm Leonard Perry with University of Vermont Extension. Today we're back at the garden of Kathy La Liberté near Richmond, Vermont. Well, Kathy, thanks so much for having us back out today to your garden. It's looking gorgeous as always.
Thank you, yeah.
Well, it looks like this is fall upon us here. The cold's coming. Looks like you've already taken out some crops.
I have. I've taken out the tomatoes. I've harvested the onions. I've got the garlic out. The eggplants are out. Most of the peppers. So these cold weather crops can stay in and can really handle cold temperatures down to maybe, most of them into the upper 20s or so.
What about pumpkins? It's fall, it's pumpkin time.
Yeah.
Can those take some cold?
Well, I grow pie pumpkins, and I'm going to take those out tonight. So I have a busy day ahead of me because you don't want the, whereas you have the kind of pumpkins that you make for jack-o'-lanterns, that doesn't matter so much. But the pie pumpkins that I'm going to store in the basement for a couple months, I want to be sure that they don't get any frost on them, so they're not damaged at all.
I guess even the jack-o'-lanterns, if you picked them, you can cover them up so they don't get, especially if it's going to be a serious heavy frost.
Right. You don't want them exposed to lower than in the upper 20s probably.
So upper 20s is probably the light frost. Below that, say below 28, that's getting into heavy frost. And so these, tell us what we're going to look at here and cover.
I have some third crops of salad greens. I've got arugula and some spinach and lettuce here, and we're going to cover up them tonight. Right now for tonight. They could probably get through tonight's frost, but it's starting to get cold, and I just think they hold a lot better if they're covered.
And you're not sure exactly how cold it's going to be. Better be safe, right?
So the fabric I have here is a heavyweight row cover, which I use in the fall and in the early spring.
And I think that's key, the heavy weight. So now there's a lighter weight that you can use in the summer.
So I've got some metal hoops here that are going to support the fabric above the greens. If you don't have those, it's okay. This is called a floating row cover, and it's usually all right if it goes.
It's light. You could just lay it right on top pretty much.
So
or make your own little frame.
Stretch it over the top, and I think
just bring it down to here?
Yep, if you've got some clothespins. I happen to have a few. I just use wooden clothespins. And you just want to secure it on the frame and get it.
There's another one.
Yep, you can put that right in the middle here.
Okay, right there.
Yep. And so the idea is to get it nice and snug.
Yep.
And then we come down. You have some left?
Yeah, I've got a couple more.
Okay. And you're going to come down here, and any extra you can just kind of fold under.
Yeah.
But
there's a couple.
All right. And sometimes I usually keep some rocks and things, and I kind of, stick them on the side because it'll get a little bit windy. But you can also come in with some extra clothespins and secure it here.
Yeah, but usually with frost, I guess it means there isn't much wind, so it shouldn't get underneath. And there's a certain amount of ground heat too.
That's right. So this is going to keep them growing a little bit longer.
Great.
Yeah.
And I noticed some of these empty spots where you pulled some plants out. It looks like you're getting them ready for next year already.
I am. You want to see that?
Take a look.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a place where I had some other greens that have already come out, and I've got some leaves here that are actually from last year. I run them over with the lawnmower and bag them up and save them. And so what I've done, actually I did this a couple days ago, was I opened up this bed a little bit and I put some leaves, so I kind of pulled the soil apart on the sides. Like
so that's interesting. You're thinking a year ahead. So this fall, when you're raking leaves, you'll be bagging them, saving them for next year's garden.
So as you see, I've this is about a week ago. I dumped some leaves in here. You can see they're already, compared to this, how much more broken down they are. And so by next spring, that's going to be
and that's going to add
duper.
Organic matter that the worms like, and helps aerate the soil and so forth.
So that'll be a nice loose bed, and next year I'll be able to put a crop that really likes loose soil, like carrots, for instance. They'll love this.
Great. Well, one of the crops that I know you haven't taken out, you mentioned, was the sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
So let's see what you're going to do with those.
All right, let's do that.
Well, Kathy, this is a novel way to grow vining crops.
Yeah, I have kind of run out of room in my garden. So I'm growing these sweet potatoes in these bags. Also, the bags seem to keep the soil worms up maybe more than it does in, if these are growing in the ground. This is made of fabric. It's basically just a thicker version of that white fabric that I covered.
And you can just buy these, put some like a compost in there?
Yeah, this is a potting mix, just like a pro mix, and it's got some compost mixed in there.
And you can probably grow potatoes this way too, regular potatoes.
Yes, you can. I grew the potatoes in the garden this year, so this is one sweet potato plant went in. It's just one plant here.
Plant and all
you can
that.
See.
Yeah.
And just for ease, I think I'm going to take this out, and then we'll dump out the bag, and we'll see what we got. Oh, well, here's one.
Again, it's coming up cold, and it's just be killed with the frost, so it's a good time to
they
take
don't
it
like
out.
to get frosted. So let's see what we've got in here.
Just dump it all out.
I guess. Oh, look at all
see
the roots on the
yeah.
bottom. I know.
Oh, look at that! Wow.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Those are huge. Look at that. Amazing. And it's so easy to harvest this way too. Just dump the bag out.
Now, one thing about sweet potatoes, they have a super thin skin, like just my finger. Just now scratch that. So a good thing about...
If you're going to store those, you don't want to...
No, you don't. So I think dumping them is a good idea because...
that way you can just really go through them easily. And boy, these are really rooted in there.
Since you're here, I'm going to have you do that.
Boy, the roots are really in there.
All right, cool.
Well, it looks like you've got quite a few here to work on. Well, we've seen your greenhouse other times of the year. Let's go take a look what you've got in that now.
All right.
Well, Kathy, this sure looks a lot different than when we were here before.
It does. I've taken out most of the tomatoes. There are still a couple of tomato plants here. These were early tomatoes here, and about a month ago I took those guys out and I seeded in some salad greens. And those are totally ready to harvest.
Oh, they sure look that way, yeah.
And down in that end I have some spinach and arugula coming up, a little bit of kale, and those guys will get, they're growing slowly now because it's September, but they'll probably get a couple inches taller, and then I'll cover those up with the same fabric we used before, and they'll actually winter over right in the ground, and then when spring comes I'll water them, take the fabric off, and actually these are guys that are going to overwinter, and they'll start producing.
And you'll start harvesting when about in spring, maybe?
Probably the end of March.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just with no heat, just growing in the ground, the cover over it, and of course it gets warm in the daytime in here, and that probably holds the heat in the soil.
It's true. Not many plants you can overwinter like that, but those are the ones I've found that do well, spinach and arugula.
Well, what about these peppers here? I know they won't overwinter.
Yeah, these guys, I do need to get to these. These are poblanos and some Hungarian wax peppers, and I'll probably leave them for another couple weeks, and because it'll stay warm in here, and then I'll be processing those.
Well, Kathy, when does gardening actually stop? Seems like you've got a lot more going on and on here.
I do. I have a break between, let's see, January, February. I'm not doing much gardening, but I will be picking stuff in the greenhouse until probably November, early November, but I'll be harvesting out in the garden probably till Christmas.
Wow, so even with all the snow out there, you must have to shovel the snow to get it.
Yeah, sometimes you do. We haven't had that much snow cover lately, but I'll be picking with covers on them, probably beets and carrots, and the kale only gets better as it gets cold.
So people don't really need a greenhouse they can just have a regular garden. And
there's plenty to eat out there.
That's great. But then you've also been harvesting a lot. You've got to store a lot. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I've been storing a lot of stuff. I'd like to show you one of my favorite storage crops.
Okay.
All right.
Wow, Kathy, this is an amazing setup you have and some amazing produce you've harvested. When did all these come out?
Well, what came out first was the garlic, which is up here. And you want to hold this?
Yeah.
So this came out in July, and this is what I'm going to be planting here pretty quickly. And I've cut off the tops a little bit. And
so you'll actually plant some of these back?
Yep. This is what I'm going to be...
plant them in October for the following July harvest.
That's right. So I'm going to separate them before I plant them, picking only the biggest biggest cloves, and the roots are going to come out of here, so these are going to go in the ground like this.
And if someone doesn't have garlic now, but they want to, they probably should buy ones for planting at a garden store versus the grocery store.
Yeah, and don't wait too long because most of them run out, the garden centers, because
So get
people
'em
are
early.
really into getting it. So I'd say now would be the time in September to go and get garlic. There's lots of different kinds. This is a particular kind that's called German hardneck garlic, and I've been growing this variety
And you just plant an individual clove.
Yep.
And just put it down below the surface?
Yep,
It's
it
not too
goes
far?
down, probably the soil level will be about this
Couple
high
inches.
over it. Yep.
Great.
And so that'll go in probably the middle of October. And the next thing, so those came out in July. The next thing that came out were the shallots. And
Wow,
these
those look beautiful.
Yeah, these are big.
Looks like you've just let those dry down.
Yep, a lot of people don't know that much about shallots, but they're really terrific. They're sort of halfway between an onion and a
And you
garlic.
use them like an onion?
Yep, great in eggs and with fish, salad dressings. So this is dried down, and before I bring them in here at some point, I'll come through and tear off the tops, and then these will go into a box in the basement and keep them cool. Like it's probably around 45, 50 down there.
But just something like in a basement, just somewhat dry?
Yep,
And,
dry and cool. Yep,
Okay.
and dark.
and the same thing for the garlic?
Yep, that's right. Dark is important.
And what about these gorgeous onions now?
Yeah, this was the one I wanted to show you. So some of these onions, I pull them as they're ready. Some of them came out a couple weeks ago, and I just lay them in here. This is how they look when they come out. Usually they tip over in the garden like this, and as soon as they've tipped over and started to kind of wither, it's time to take them out. I took
So
these
those
out
just came out?
this morning, yeah. So, and then I'm going to lay them where there's plenty of air circulation and they can dry down. And where's that one I had here?
Is it right over next to that?
Yeah, here. So this one's been out for probably 3 weeks or so, and it's nice and dry. And what happens is, what's important is this neck, over time as it dries, it tightens. And so when this is ready to pull off like that, it means it's nice and dry.
It should pull easily if it's
It should
still
pull easily. You
kinda
don't want this
pliable.
still to be wet in here. It's got to make a nice tight seal, and then it seals the moisture of the onion inside of this really thin little paper. And so this will last. These are onions that are particularly good for storage, and this will be totally fine until next May, just
Wow.
in the basement.
Just in the basement again, cool and dark.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to go through all these by
Well,
next May, but
you maybe have some for some friends
I
in
might,
the
yeah.
local food shop.
come
but-
by in the winter and I'll probably have some for you.
Well, I have to say, Kathy, I mean, looking at this one in particular, this looks like a champion onion, something you grew for the fair. I mean, is this
Yeah.
the compliments to, I mean, your skills here? I guess the first thing is, can anyone grow something like this? How do you get one this
Yeah,
big?
this is a variety called Asa Craig. It's grown a lot in England. It's a kind of a competition. People bring it to the state fair, which I guess I probably should have done. These I got as starts from a seed company, and they come in a little bundle in the spring of 100, and I split that with my neighbor. So I put about 50 of these plants in, and
Well, that's a great idea. If you want something different, or you can find them in catalogs.
Yeah.
And if it's too many, split it with a neighbor too, and then you can split the cost, and I'm sure it's not that expensive.
yeah, as you can imagine, 50 of these is plenty. These
Yeah.
are not keeper onions. These are really good for grilling hamburgers and that kind of thing, and I also use them in pickles. But these are the storage ones, so I'll be using those up first.
Thanks so much, Kathy, for sharing your garden with us this year. I know I've learned a lot.
Well, it's been really fun having you here, Leonard. Thanks for coming.
For University of Vermont Extension, I'm Leonard Perry, and thanks for watching today on Across the Fence.
For a video copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-ATF-3430. Across the Fence is brought to you as a public service by University of Vermont Extension and WCAX-TV.